what we're going to jump into now is we're going to jump into this process called different angles. And I've been thinking a lot lately about what people need to know as new facilitators. And so like what are the knowledge, the skills, the like things to be aware of that is helpful for people who are just starting out in facilitation to kind of like build their capacities. So we're going to look at that question of like, what do new facilitators need to know, or what can help a new facilitator kind of like grow? We're going to look at that from a few different angles. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put you into new breakout rooms, going to put you into slightly different small groups. And each group is going to have a different kind of like angle to look at this question of like, what can new facilitators, what should new facilitators know, or what kind of awarenesses would be helpful. And we're going to do this on one of the collaborative whiteboard tools. We're going to do this on Mural. So can you raise your hand if you've used Mural before? Okay. All right, so some of us haven't. So real quick intro to Mural. If you use any of the collaborative whiteboard tools, it's really similar and we're not doing anything too complicated. So in a moment, I'm gonna send you a link to the Mural. And when you open up that link, this is what you're gonna see. You are going to land here. And the first thing I always tell people to do is go down to the bottom right and adjust this to trackpad or mouse, depending on what you're using. It'll help you move around the mural much more smoothly. So once you've done that, depending on what room you're in, so when you move into a breakout room, it always says like room 1, room 2. So if you're in room 1, go ahead and zoom into the room 1 part of the mural. And I just want you with your group to think about this question of like, as a new facilitator, what are the things that would be helpful to know about planning a workshop? Okay, if you're room 2, you're going to be thinking about what are the really important things to know about the first 10 minutes. And if you're room 3, you're going to look at the last 10 minutes. Okay, and the only thing you need to know other than like, use your scroll or pinch and zoom to move to your part is if you double click on the mural, oh my goodness, that's because I created the world's largest sticky note previously. Shouldn't do that. Where am I here? Here we go. If you double click on the mural, it should create a sticky note for you. And that's how I just want you to take notes on those sticky notes, and you can make them a little bigger if you need, etc. But if you just double click anywhere on your kind of spot, it'll make a sticky note, which will make it easier for you to capture the ideas that are coming up in your groups. So you'll have a little over 5 minutes in your groups to just kind of brainstorm this idea of, what would help new facilitators to know about your kind of angle that we're looking at. Boop doop. So let me send that in the chat. And again, the angle is assigned to your specific breakout room. Okay, any questions about the directions other than where's the mural link? The mural link is there now. Okay, any questions about the directions? All right, so we'll come back around 20 past. We do have one group of 2 because someone just had to drop off. So Allison and Nina, you all just be chatty Cathy's. Okay, I might pop in if I get bored in the main room. Please ignore me unless you need me. And I'll see you all back here in a little bit. So what's really interesting is when people are in the breakout rooms and they're working on a collaborative whiteboard tool, you can actually have them, you can actually kind of like watch their progress. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so room 3 is cranking right now, and they're just, they've got a bunch of ideas. And room 2, I can tell that they're in the right spot, which is good. And Marcy just made the world's biggest sticky note. I'm tempted to resize it, but I'm sure Marcy will figure it out. make this one. Let's see if that works. Okay. All right. And room one. Yeah. Room one is just type in some big picture stuff. Okay. So cool. So this is just so fun. So this is one of the reasons that I love using collaborative whiteboard tools, is because I'm not actually peeking into their sessions. I'm just getting to like watch as they talk. Leave with a rousing statement or quote. So fun. Oh man. So I just broadcast about a minute ago, I broadcast a 2 more minutes message, and I can kind of tell that a couple of the groups haven't added anything more in a little while, so that we're probably in a good stopping place. And I also wanted to show you that I'm using my Stream Deck right now as a timer. This is the only timer that I ever get to like actually remember to set during a session. Like, as if it's just one button, I can do it, which is how this one works. I just have to press that button for a 5-minute timer. And it's so helpful because almost every time I forget to set a timer, and I don't like the auto countdown timers of the breakout rooms. I think it creates like too much of an impending, like, oh, we have to hurry. I don't know, unless that's the feeling I want, I often will skip it. So yeah. All right, I'm going to bring everybody back now. Welcome back. No, most of you were still flurrying around the mural right up to the last moment. So sorry if I cut off your conversations, but I'm excited to hear about your conversations. One thing I forgot to do before bringing you back was to ask you to identify somebody to share out for your group, because no matter how much you do this facilitation thing, you can still like forget like key instructions. So I'm just gonna ask for volunteers in this moment. So we're going to start with room one. That was Kayla, Kieran, and Ro. Would somebody be up for sharing just a little bit of like what came up in your group's conversation?
Sure. Yep. We actually identified a reporter.
Yes.
Yes.
Way to go. Way to facilitate yourselves on that one.
That was Kayla being like, Meg's gonna ask for somebody. And Kayla was right. We had a great conversation talking about planning logistical stuff, like, and mixing it up, small groups, large groups, moving around, sitting, standing. We talked about having an agenda. We talked about, if you have a co-facilitator, making sure you and your co-facilitator are on the same page about how much you're going to stick to that agenda, or like how you're going to move through the agenda. We talked about bringing norms to a group. In most cases that we facilitate, it's not a situation where we're going to ask the group to generate norms, but we'll bring a sort of standard set and then ask the group to approve or add or edit.
Great.
Kieran mentioned knowing your audience ahead of time, and then how to figure out how to earn the trust of your participants, and thinking about how much of yourself you want to reveal or bring into the space, what's appropriate for the group, for the subject.
Nice.
For you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. I love that, like, some of these I think could be whole angles of themselves, right? Like we could totally do like how do you earn, I've never thought of like almost like doing this like a fractal, but like the brainstorm actually creating new themes or kind of like introspections to go into. So that's just a thought I had. But yeah, okay, cool. Love all of these. All right, I'm gonna hop to room 2. Whoa. All right, room 2. This is Jen, John, and Marcy. Would anybody be up for sharing for your group? Thank you so much, Ro. I'm gonna pick on you, John, because you're unmuted, unless Jen. Oh, no, I saw Jen unmute there. Yep, go for it, Jen.
We had a great conversation and also provided each other some helpful mural hints, which is always nice. So thank you for that, team 2. I think there's some great suggestions on here. And I think that one of the things we talked about, and anyone else should jump in here, was something is around how the first 10 minutes is really important, but it's also only 10 minutes. Right. And I personally, and I think this, the other people said, like, sometimes you can try to cram so much into it and try to hit everybody's needs that can be. And Meg, I think you may have posted something somewhere, apologies, I don't remember which platform, but around thinking about slowness or pace recently. And I thought that came to mind in the first 10 minutes for this. So
yeah, I like that you called out, first of all, I love this term emotional handshake. I've not heard it before. And I think it's just very memorable, which I really like. But yeah, I hear what you're saying of like, to me, there's like a couple different directions you could go, right? You can kind of go to slowness, you can go to connection, you can like go to like really establishing what's about to happen. You can like kind of build space for intrigue and like with the like question or allowing them to bring questions, and that like we probably can't do all of it, right? So just to like commit to one of those areas. Yeah, Marcy, I see you.
So it occurred to me just now when someone said setting norms that we didn't include, I'm in group 2, that we didn't include setting norms. And I think that the reason in my own mind that I didn't go there is because I didn't know 10 minutes out of how many in total. So this 10, if I'd known how many in total, I would have been I just prioritized what was most important at the very start.
Yeah.
If I'd known that I have 10 minutes of what percentage of my time that is, I might have, that would help me to know what comes next.
It's amazing how like sometimes people will do like intros and I'm like, that was 5 to 10% of your entire session, right? And it's important to know when you want to make that trade-off or not. So yeah, how much of your session the first 10 minutes is, yeah, that's super, super important. Okay, let's go to group 3. And you all had the last 10 minutes. So this is Allison or Nina. Would one of you be up for sharing out just a little where you all went?
Sure. We had like just good conversations about, that last 10 minutes you want to summarize or review what you've been covering, making sure that you are hitting those key points and summarizing that, which is always important. It can be done in so many different ways. There's all kinds of ways that you can do a summary. I can't remember what it's called in the card deck, but we've done that sort of snowball fight, write something down, throw it at a neighbor, or at another table, open it up, so that when we're in person. But these were things that we discovered, you can do either virtual or in person. Often there's a parking lot. Don't forget those parking lot questions that people may have done. So often we walk out of the room, virtual or not, and forget to answer those questions that may have been burning for someone, and they will remember. If there is any of that homework or intercession work, to make sure that we do that, those next steps that they may need to do before they come to the next session. I'm gonna let Allison talk about the emotions checkout, because she does a great job of explaining that. So Allison, please take that one.
Yeah,
sure, thanks. So the work that I do involves sort of emotional arc, and I want to check in with participants. I want to make sure that they are in an okay space whenever I leave them. So sometimes I'll ask them for a one-word checkout. We talk about emotions during the workshop, and it gives them a chance to have a word ready. And then I will, Nina, take the last one if that's okay. I'll leave them with a rousing statement or quote. So I think I picked this up from Priya Parker, but she says, don't finish or start meetings with logistics. So after we've done all the housekeeping bits, I will leave them with something and then end.
Nice. I think, yeah, I think that's great. I like that you specifically said like a rousing statement or quote. And yeah, I think it's like a nice, it also creates a particular, you're leaving on an emotional note that you get to kind of like formulate, or that you get to help create when you do that with the quote. So I think that's a really cool idea. It's not something I do often, but I think it's something that I've seen really like work and be effective. Okay. So we had a lot of great, I think, like insights from this. I want to kind of like take our participants hat off and put on our facilitator hat for kind of the next like 5 or so minutes and just talk about the process itself. So like the idea of looking at, you know, building awareness around for new facilitators, this idea of like, what are the things you could learn or what are the things you could use? We could have just like brainstormed a list of those things. How was this process? How did this process like change, or how did this process kind of change what came up for you? Or yeah, I'm going to start with that question. If anybody has any responses.
I think for me, one of the things that it highlighted is especially this idea of this slow, thinking about slowness. I know I'm in trouble when I'm setting up as people arrive. Like when I'm not necessarily moving things around, but in my head, I'm trying to figure out, okay, when that's happening and people arrive, it's already like, okay, I already know that I'm in trouble.
Totally.
And so it was a really nice reminder of that immediate preparation, long-term preparation, but just being in a headspace ready to be emotionally connected to my group and available and thinking about my role with them.
Great. Nina, did you have a thought on like the process we just did? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that for me, it was nice to be able to, you know, there's a lot of questions here. We didn't even get to a room 4, but
Nope.
it was, yeah, which is fine. But I think that it allowed us to like really focus in on this one section of what was happening in this flow, in this process, because this is a process. So we could take that one little step and look at it. And then we became we weren't worried about, oh, I have to think about all of these different things. I could just focus in on that one area of that process and be able to come back and be able to share out, and knowing that in some ways I was teaching others in the group about what I had, you know, worked on in that section. So I wasn't as afraid to go, okay, my time's coming up. Okay, what am I gonna say? Oh, and it allowed us to have that voice, and our group got an opportunity to say something.
Yeah. Something that what you just said made me think of, and then I'm going to jump to Ro, this idea of brainstorms can sometimes feel anxiety producing. Like you can just be like, oh, I have to think of the right things and the smart things and the like, et cetera. Right. And that can be like, yeah, that can bring up nervousness, and nervousness does not bring up good ideas. Right. Versus this allows you to like the zeroing in, I think reduces the like kind of broad request, right? So we're better at doing things that I think are specific, but also because you thought of something specific and you thought of it and other people didn't, you get to feel a little more confident in the sharing out. So there's like 2 ways that this process, I think, like kind of reduces that like brainstorm anxiety. So yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were sharing.
And I didn't have to, I think if it would have been everyone putting something, sticky notes, everyone go put a sticky note here, I can sit back and feel like I don't have to do this. I'll let everyone else handle it because I don't know what to put.
Right.
So I'm forced to participate.
Yeah. Because you're in that small group. Yeah. What about you, Ro? What'd you think?
I just wanted to add that I also appreciated the sort of like, what should new facilitators know? Like that was the overarching question. And like taking the fractal to another level, you could also be like, what should you know if you're facilitating with a co-facilitator? What should you like? I'm seeing like you could have all these questions. Anyway, I just appreciate. So if my group got really big, I could still have like these specific angles, but then also like, and then those 3 groups are working on co-facilitation, those 3 angles, and these 3 groups are working on like new facilitators, these 3 angles, and like what, I don't know, it could be really fun. Anyway, lots of fractals.
Yeah.
Ro, I was thinking,
go ahead, John.
That made me think about the question, or Marcy brought up about how long is this thing? Like, what's the duration? It'd be interesting if we said, okay, well, we're doing the first 10 minutes of an hour, of a 4-hour, of a 2-day. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so I like the idea that you can break this down into a bunch of different, ideals that people can share their thinking about.
Yeah. Something that, so I also had kind of like 2 other thoughts building off of what Ro and what John and you were just saying. One is that when we're doing brainstorms with enormous groups, that sometimes you can just, you end up having like 500 sticky notes that kind of say this, like say like maybe 30 things, right? Like, and you're like, cool, we like brainstormed 30 ideas, but we had like 500 people, right? Versus if you did something like this, and you could even do like, first round, we're going to split you up into like these types of groups. And then second round, we want you to split yourselves up into like even more specifics to kind of like fractal out the brainstorming. You could actually end up with 500 like really valuable ideas. So I hadn't thought about like how different angles could help like big group brainstorms become way more specific, because you can actually task people with so many more like specific ideas. Yeah. Okay, we have maybe like one or two more. If there's any insights that you have on the process itself, on using like having to write these ideas down versus just have a discussion, or using Mural versus just having you like write on the, like, you know, annotate on a piece of paper. Why am I struggling to say that? But like any other insights from the process, if somebody was like, oh, like when should I use, you know, this type of brainstorming? Any other folks you haven't heard from yet? Yeah, Kayla.
Meg, I like to often do the minute papers that you have as a kind of self-reflection first. I think because I process things that way, like I just want a minute to get my own thoughts together, and then I maybe can share with others. So I can see this. I've not used different angles yet, and I really love that we've practiced it today, because, you know, that's why I come to these things. It helps me do it. But I would have liked to say, like, let me think about it first for a second or a minute or whatever, and then come into it. Because Ro and Kieran were in my group, and we were doing really well at just kind of like, well, here's what I typically do. And then Ro would say, oh, well, I heard like 2 stickies in that statement. And then, you know, we got there. But anyway, that would be my thought. I would do this and add minute papers in right before.